Good morning. We're going to talk about solving a system of equations using elimination. And there are four steps to this. So what we're doing is we're solving a set of equations for x and y. And instead of using substitution or graphing, we're going to use a method called elimination. So step one, write the system so that like terms are aligned. So our x's line up, our y's line up, and our constants, our plain old numbers, line up. Next, we have to decide which variable we want to eliminate. And I think when we look at an example, we'll see that this is not very difficult to come up with. And then we'll have to solve for the other variable. Now, we've been doing this when we do substitution, so that part shouldn't be new, and neither should step 4. So let's look at this first example. We want to solve for x and y. Now, this looks different than our other problems because in the other ones we've been doing, it's always been y equals something. Well, if we notice, our variables, our like ones, are lined up. Our x's are stacked up, our y's are stacked up, and so are our constants, those plain old numbers. So they are lined up, and now we're ready to decide which variable to eliminate. Well, since the y term, this is a minus 4y and this is a plus 4y, that's why we want to eliminate our y variable. Because when we add these two equations together, what we notice is that 3x plus 4x, 1x is 4x, but our minus 4y and our plus 4y go away. They turn into 0. So now I have an equation 4x equals 8. So I'm going to divide both sides by 4. And I now have part of my answer. I know that x equals 2. But remember, we're looking for an x and a y. So I have to use one of these original equations to figure out what y is. So what I'm going to do is replace x with 2 and figure out what y is. Now, which equation should I use? Well, you can use any equation. We're going to use the second one, and the reason why is because I just decided it looks a little easier to work with. So I'm going to write x, except I'm going to replace my x with 2, plus 4y equals negative 2. Now we need to solve that for y. So our goal is to get y all by itself, but before we can do that, we need to get 4y all by itself. So we're going to add or subtract 2 from both sides. And now we have 4y equals negative 4. So we divide both sides by 4, and y is going to equal negative 1. So now I have an x value and a y value, and my answer then is going to be in x comma y form, so 2, negative 1. The next example, this is actually not an example. This is the first problem on your assignment. So my like terms are lined up. We need to decide which variable to get rid of. And because it's a 4x here and a minus 4x here, when I combine these two equations, I'll get 0. So that's why I want to eliminate the x variable. Now when I do that, I've got a negative 2 and a negative 3 that I combine to give me a minus 5y. Over here, I get a negative 5. Now I have to solve for y, so I'm going to divide both sides by negative 5, and now y equals 1. Now I have to choose to use this equation or this one here to figure out what x is. I'm choosing the first one because 4x isn't negative. That's the only reason. So I have 4x minus 2y, except I'm replacing the y with 1, equals negative 2. Now I have that equation to solve. So our goal is to get x all by itself, but before I can do that, I need to get 4x all by itself. So I'm going to add 2 to both sides, and that gives me 4x equals 0, which is a little weird, but it's fine, because I'm going to divide by 4, and 0 divided by 4, 0 divided by anything, is 0. The last thing I have to do is write my answer in xy form, so my answer is 0, 1.